Hey team, I have an awesome treat for you today. My new friend, Debbie Fain, is joining me today to share a little bit about her experience as a marketer over the last 25 years. Debbie graduated in 1988 with a bachelor's degree in journalism, where she first discovered her passion for advertising. In 2000, she founded Fain and Tripp, a marketing and advertising agency outside of Atlanta, Georgia, that helps national brands drive local sales. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, Debbie.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to do it. I guess I would have to start by saying it's almost unrecognizable. And part of that is because everything today is about metrics. And 25 to 30 years ago, we didn't have digital metrics that we could use to measure things. Yes, you had Nielsen ratings that, we bought media based on Nielsen ratings, but that was about as sophisticated as any kind of digital metrics came. And I remember I worked in the athletic footwear industry, and the primary metrics that we relied on back then was sales and actual, how were the campaigns that we were running, how were they working? People would actually bring in newspaper ads and they would say, I want this right here. Or they would say, hey, I saw, your TV ad, or I heard your radio ads, and, they would come in based on that. But then the first metrics really that I remember from back in those days was we had traffic counters. And traffic counters were used to measure foot traffic. So imagine that, you had traffic counters that actually measured when a person came through that door, versus today, we don't have to do that anymore. The people that did traffic counters, that I'm sure they're all out of business, because now that's all done digitally. We know where these people are going. We can geo-fence, geo-address, and everything else. So we don't need that old technology anymore. But I would say that was probably, I would have to say that sales was the most important metric. And it would be that way, whether it would be for a local retailer, a regional brand, or even national brands. If your sales are up, everything's good and everybody's happy. So it, to me, is still the ultimate measurement, I would say. It's faster. It's funny. I was thinking about it last week. I'll give you an example. There's a current campaign that we're running for Yamaha Watercraft, and part of their campaign, most of their campaign this year has a heavy digital focus, but we are staying with a more traditional medium, which is out of home. So digital billboards out of home. So one of the things that I'm seeing with that is, with a regular billboard, you used to have to pay for what they call them today static billboards. Okay, so basically that's a billboard that's not digital. All right, mm-hmm. And most of those static billboards are produced on vinyl. So there's a whole production process that you have to go through there. You've got to pay for that production. Once you put a campaign up, you're not going to be able to change it like that. Whereas today, really the only thing we buy anymore are digital boards. Now with those digital boards, we can run as many creative messages as we want to, and there's no production cost. And if we want to start a campaign in 3 days, guess what? We can start that campaign in 3 days. And it's so that's one of the things that's different, that really comes to mind of something pretty recent that has happened with one of our clients. I think I'm a big fan of, I guess, multi-channel marketing campaigns. If I think back, there was a couple of years ago, we ran a campaign for Mahindra, their Roxor, their automotive division, and the Roxor was a brand new off-road vehicle that they had introduced here in the United States. And so they had Mahindra Roxor had a network of about 350 dealerships across the country. So they came to us and said, okay, what kind of campaign, what do we need to be doing? They wanted something that was, fairly dynamic and included different things. They wanted to be able to measure traffic coming into the dealerships. Driving that traffic into the dealerships was going to be the most important thing for them. So we ran a campaign that included it had a geo-addressable element to it. It had, there were digital banner ads that ran. We geo-fenced locations, we conquested, and it was all about driving, how much traffic could we drive into those dealerships. So that was really one of the, I guess, not the first for us, but one of the campaigns that I thought was one of the bigger successes in using all the different digital elements like that. And we were reaching we were after a very specific target, and that was going to be farmers, ranchers, and large landowners. And so what we did was we purchased, I believe we went to one of the premier database companies in the country for that specific audience. They do a lot with that audience, and we actually purchased addresses. So remember that a lot of times you purchase those addresses and actually direct mail those homes. Okay, you direct mail those homes a physical piece of paper or a card. We used the geo addressing element in a different way, and that we fenced those walls of their ranches, their homes, and then we served up those messages anytime they were online, and we targeted certain, websites and things that prospect audience would be using. And so that was a pretty neat way for us to be able to do that. And some of them couldn't believe that we were able to do that, but I'm like, no, we can actually go inside those four walls and reach those people. And then, like I said, we were able to geofence specific locations, and then even competitive locations to reach customers that were going in the competitor, and then serving up ads to them to see if we could drive them into our Roxville dealerships. And it was a very successful campaign. Their sales were through the roof after that campaign. Well, the Gen Z audience, because our agency works primarily with our clients, price tag is fairly high. Okay, so while they want to grab those Gen Z customers, but they're not going to actually market directly to them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're gonna maybe get them through family events and things like that. But we don't really do a lot of Gen Z marketing. If we were going to, I could tell you that we would definitely have social media in the mix. Mm-hmm. And then we would probably look at, Facebook would not be at the top of the list because that's an older demographic now, but we would definitely look at TikTok. We would look at influencers, we would look at Instagram. I mean, that's what we would be doing to drive those, the message to that specific demographic. But, really to date, like I said, we just haven't done a whole lot of that. Mm-hmm. But we're certainly open to it. And it's definitely a different messaging type strategy. But, not that much different than it was when we were all younger. Mm-hmm. We all looked at things that our friends were doing. We were influenced by so many things. So I would like to have, I would enjoy having a client that we could try things like that with.
Yeah. I love your answer though, because it makes me feel good about what I'm doing, because you're right exactly where in the areas that we work with in terms of bypassing Facebook and really TikTok is blowing up.
Yes.
In terms of it's really exciting to see the types of results that we're getting for our clients as well. So that's fantastic.
And it is, and it's funny. I've noticed that, some of my friends are starting to use TikTok. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, now, as soon as we invade TikTok, they're going to come up with something else because they abandoned Facebook because, that was originally for college students. And now all of us older folks, we get on that. Right. They're like, we're out of here. So it's a constant, it's a constant challenge. I mean, remember when we were young, we didn't want to do what our parents were doing. We wanted to do the opposite, right?
That's right. We blazed our own trail. And as soon as they caught on, we ditched and did something else.
Exactly. Yes.
For sure.
Absolutely. So it's funny that you asked me that, because when the agency was fairly new, we would get that question, what makes you guys different than all the other agencies? Because many times we'd be in a pitch for something and they wanted to know, what's that one thing that makes you different? And the common response was always, oh, we're different than all those other agencies. Our creative is better, or our this is better, our media buying's better, we've got more experience. But I found that everybody, all those other agencies, were saying the same thing. But I figured it out. Okay, it comes down to one thing that we do better than everybody else, and that is customer service. I think that customer service is missing in so many areas today, but for us, it's very important for us to do exactly what we tell our clients we're going to do. We do it on time. We do it with excellence. If we're going to be late with something, because things change and you're not always going to be perfect with everything, we give our clients plenty of advance notice, and we let them know, that we have to change certain things. But I would say that customer service, there's another thing too. You don't keep clients for 20 years without providing outstanding customer service. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of agencies can't do it. They just can't. They don't know how. They're not. And sometimes they get too big and they can't do it. But that is very important to me. And another thing that I think is very important that sets us apart is something just simply called gut instinct. And I would put myself up against anybody in the country when it comes to gut instinct. I can tell through all my experience, it's like a sixth sense. I can almost tell you what a client is going to say before they say it. And so that's nothing magical. That comes from paying attention to your clients, anticipating their needs, and then being right there ready for them when they'll call and ask for something. I know sometimes if a client is going to say they're not happy with something, and I try to head that off at the pass. So I'll tell you with full confidence that customer service is the one thing that sets us apart from everybody else. No doubt in my mind about that.
You know what? It's kind of funny that, well, not funny that you should say that, but when I did some research on Fain and Tripp, and those are the types of comments that I was reading about, is that you guys just blow everybody out of the water because you're so in tune with your clients, and that is a special gift.
And I think that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of, and having, run the agency for 20 years. I mean, we've never skipped a beat. Is all the compliments that we continue to get today. They're always saying, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back for that or anything, but it's that'll make you feel really good, and will make you get up the next day and want to make sure that you please those clients that much more, because that in the end, I don't care if it's money or anything else, compliments like that. In fact, I will tell you that I can almost 100%, all of our clients have come off of a referral. All right. So, and it's come through people that have been with a company, whether it be Yamaha or ASV or Yanmar, and they're with the company a few years. They have an opportunity to work with us. They go on to different companies, and guess what? A year or two later, we'll get a phone call that says, "Hey, we want you to come and do for us what you've done for these other guys." So it's been important. We also quit spending money on trying to promote ourselves. No need in it. Just provide good work, and the work will come. The new work will come back to you in that form. I would say that you have to be ready for it. Well, I'll tell you, let me tell you a little story. Okay. So when I entered UGA, I entered there going after an accounting major, which really ended up being funny. But I had to, as part of the accounting through the business school at UGA, I had to take some electives. And I saw an elective in the listed that said advertising. And back then it was 101. It wasn't all these 4 numbers. It was advertising 101. I said, that sounds interesting. I think I'll try that. the very first day of class, I sat there with my mouth open and I said, you mean to tell me that people get paid to do this? As soon as that class was over, I sprinted across campus and changed my major to advertising, and I never looked back. Because I also figured if you're creative in accounting, you can go to jail, but if you're creative in advertising, you can afford. So I never looked back. But I would say that that marketing and advertising is something that it changes day by day. Just like we've talked a little bit about how, traditional, how it was, and now everything's digital. Or most everything, it changes day by day. It's not an 8-hour day work day. Even if you own a business or you don't, I find that sometimes in marketing and advertising and agencies, those people are putting in a lot of hours. So you got to be willing to do that. You've got to be willing to learn and grow. So it doesn't matter how many years I'm in this business, I am going to constantly stay on top of things. I'm not going to be one of those people that, that I say, well, I don't know anything about that. In fact, I spent hours over the last few weeks in Google Analytics looking at the results of a campaign that we're currently running. So I find that fascinating, that I can go into that platform and sit there and look at real time. I see what that campaign's doing. So you have to be willing to learn, adapt, change. But it's a fun career most of the time. It's a lot of hard work, but and the money's not as good as it used to be. And there are no longer 3 martini lunches. That's changed now, but it's still a very rewarding career. And I would advise anybody thinking about entering it to maybe experience it a little bit. Continue to learn. In fact, I'm also a certified executive coach, and I think part of that does help me to work with my clients. But that was another thing that helped me grow. So I think the more you learn, the more you can continue to grow. It just, it provides a good platform for marketing.
Sounds fantastic. Great advice. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I look forward to continuing to chat with you and hearing about what adventures you have up and coming.
Oh, yes, please. Anytime, I'm happy to share those thoughts, and maybe you can teach me some things too about this Gen Z audience.
They're definitely an interesting bunch.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you so much, Debbie. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.